Magalhaes to Stokes, who's onside. 1-0.
Here's Sims. It's a good serve this from Southampton. They could finish the job here. It's Shane Long, and he has done it. Just a minute to play. That's stoppage time. Here's Letizia. Who better to say farewell than one of the finest players ever to wear the red and white.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Saints FC podcast. Alongside me, to my left, I have the illustrious Mr. Tom Parker. How are you, Tom?
I'm really good, John. How are you tonight?
Yeah, I'm very well. You know, it's funny what a couple of wins can do to change the mood. In fact, it's been quite the week. You know, I had my sister's wedding, went down to Cornwall, all sorts of things going on. So, and you know, all the while I was away, not following Saints particularly, they actually went and did some wins, which was great.
There's a sign there, maybe, John.
Do you think I just need to give up and then
You're
perhaps we'll do better?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've got a couple of wins to talk about. We have one loss, which we've not covered because due to the holiday last week, we didn't cover the Saints-Leicester game, so we might have a quick look at that. As always, if you want to email into the podcast, you can do so, saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com. A couple of you have done that, so we're going to go through some of your emails later. And, of course, we're on at SaintsFCPodcast at Twitter as well. And there's been a couple of song suggestions which I'm going to try and persuade Tom to attempt a little bit later on. So I think let's work our way through this chronologically. So we'll start with the Saints-Leicester game. And I think I'll start with an email that we've had from Zav. He says, "Hi both. Writing this straight after the game, so very angry / sad. Cannot stand losing to Puel at St Mary's. For the first time this season, we started strong but couldn't hold on to our lead for even 10 minutes. While I wanted Højbjerg to start, he had a bad game. Raymond Lamina and Vestergaard looked great. Actually, he's called him Vestergaard. I'm not sure if that was a misspelling or
it works either way.
Yeah. But mentally, the whole squad is still weak. My question for you guys are: when do we start worrying about relegation? And where is Gabbiadini? Thanks, Zav. Pronounced Zav.
Yeah, it's weird because I think obviously we know now what happens in the Palace game, so to start the relegation talk seems a little bit premature. But Gabbiadini is an interesting one. I think I'm not going to blow my celebrity trumpet, but I was on TalkSport last week talking about Saints, and they were alluding quite heavily. It was Jason Cundy and Jake, someone in the studio, and they were alluding quite heavily to some sort of bust up between Gabbiadini and Hughes, or that Hughes just doesn't like the look of Gabbiadini for whatever reason.
Is that just like the way he looks?
I mean, he does look a bit weird, doesn't he? He just doesn't look like a footballer. No. I don't know what he looks like.
Do you think Hughes just wants him to get a bit of a haircut? And,
he looks like an extra of Gamora.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen Gamora, but I don't know. Like maybe Mark Hughes does like a more sort of blood and thunder British/Irish kind of traditional centre forward in the sort of Charlie Austin, Danny Ings kind of mould. I mean, it's fascinating because if we look at the Brighton game, Gabbiadini starts, he doesn't finish the game, doesn't play particularly well by all accounts. We'll come to Palace game, but Gabbiadini not on the bench for that. Yeah. So there's obviously he obviously doesn't fancy him, which is weird because if he didn't fancy him, you think he'd have got rid of him in the summer.
Yeah, and then I think when he was questioned on it this week, he said that he wouldn't be going out on loan, and obviously we are now into September, so I think that means that you can't have any more deals. So he obviously rates him enough to want to have him as an option, but I mean, if you're Gabbiadini, you're going to be a bit upset about how far away you are from the team. I mean, especially considering it was his goal that kept us in the Premier League essentially last season. Yeah,
it seems that I think what we saw on Saturday with Ings and Long up front, that combination seemed to work actually really well, better than I think Charlie Austin's start to the season has been stuttering at best. maybe right now, if you're looking at your first three choice forwards, maybe it is Ings, Long, and Austin. But I don't think Austin's place in that sort of triumvirate is guaranteed by any means.
Okay, and then the other thing, when do we start worrying about relegation? I mean, can you cast your mind back to the moments after that loss against Leicester, where we've thrown away another lead once again at home, losing at St Mary's? Were you starting to get worried about relegation, Tom, at that point?
My fiance gave me some very good feedback when I sort of crumpled into the sofa almost crying at their friend's house as well. She said, have you tried supporting a better team? So really helpful feedback there. Thank you, Imogen. I think one of the worrying things about that was the 94th minute. You worry about the psychological impact on the players. Because if you think about it, like Everton, what was that, like 94th minute? And then there are other games where we've sort of just crumbled, like Chelsea at home last season. There are a number of games like
Arsenal, we surrendered the lead.
We surrendered the lead. Well. Man City, last game of the season, what was that, like 96th minute? Yeah. They scored. So we do kind of have a habit of these sort of last minute collapses. And it's hard, isn't it? Like I thought the kind of Maguire's goal was a freak goal, to be honest. Like on any other day, it would have just Vestergaard would have smacked it out, or, McCarthy would have just stepped to his side and picked it up, and it kind of time just sort of seemed to stand still. It was a very strange goal to win a game with. Yeah,
and I mean, whilst we're talking about goals, we might as well mention Ryan Bertrand's goal.
It was a rocket, wasn't it?
It was a rocket. It's I think you can actually vote for it as goal of the month for August. So nice to have a Saints goal in the mix there. The other, I suppose, talking point is Højbjerg, who we'd been campaigning for, from the podcast, and Hughes, who obviously I think he must be a regular listener because he does seem to respond to our requests every now and then. He put Højbjerg into the squad, but I mean, as I've mentioned, he had a pretty bad game and he got sent off as well with the most ludicrous dive.
This sounds silly because
he doesn't seem like a kind of player that
does. Exactly. It's the sort of stupid thing everyone always says after these things. He doesn't sound like that kind of player, but you would have thought he would be a more kind of honest sort of player because he plays a pretty tough game, Højbjerg. So you'd think if anyone's going to do that, it's kind of a Lamina kind of thing to do. He'd almost thought, well, it's only a Buffal thing, but very disappointing. But again, is that a symptom of? And hopefully it will change now. Is that like a symptom of like a desperateness, like the desperateness? If that's even, I think that's even a word, but like the desperation to win. Or they desperately need a win at home.
A player like Højbjerg, who seems to be more of the kind of like tough traditional sort of player,
but also a sensible, mature. He's a guy that has played for Bayern Munich, played for Guardiola. He's obviously a very mature, level-head. Loads of international caps.
But I mean, players that play for Guardiola still dive, don't they?
They do, but he went to, bear in mind, he was playing for Guardiola at a very young age. So he probably, he's probably got something about him. He's, if you read everything about what he's gone through in the last year or so, he always strikes you as an incredibly reasonable, mature young man.
Not sure about his taste in tattoos, though.
Yeah, he doesn't really need them. They look odd, but he, so it was disappointing to see him do that. But if we go before that, we were 1-0 up, we concede a goal within 3 minutes, a stupid goal. Yeah, kind of Cedric kind of forgot where he was for a moment. It was a very strange goal to concede.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of inconsistencies across the whole squad at the moment because we look back at that Leicester game, and Cedric, he's been pretty poor, to be honest, most of the season, I think. And we had a couple of emails highlighting that about Cedric as well, which I won't get totally into the detail because I think it's going to be more fun to focus on the games that we've won later on in the podcast. But, he's been pretty poor for Saints so far, but then got an assist on Saturday. So,
yeah, I can't work it out. Is it? I wonder with Cedric as well, and we'll never know this, but is Cedric looking bad because the centre backs are bad? So if we look at, we've moaned about this, non-stop, saying, oh God, big forwards peel off the centre backs. They end up against Cedric. Richarlison did it this season. If you Glenn Morris did it last season. It happened quite a few times.
Yeah, and you see the kind of centre backs this is one for the people following this on YouTube, but with the like gormless look on their faces, watching the ball go past, and then that open jaw as they realise that Cedric's got the big man.
Yeah,
once
Cedric,
again.
Cedric, who's 5'7", 5'6", is up against some 6'3" centre forward, and you. So I wonder if Cedric is almost taking a lot of flack for the inability of our centre backs to attack crosses.
And do you think we should be at least giving him some praise for just actually trying to be there defending it, even though it's totally against his skill set?
I think the Leicester game is different because he did win the header, and he did have the opportunity to have a simple header, but he kind of heads it and then totally loses track of the ball and runs in like the opposite direction, and Demarai Gray scores. So yeah, at the end of the day, Cedric's won a European Championship. He's probably one of our better players. He has to be.
Okay, well let's move on from the Leicester loss, because as much as it upsets you, Zav, it kind of upsets me as well. I suppose one thing that we did have in between, I think, the Leicester game and the Palace game, I mean, obviously we had the League Cup, which we'll get onto now, but we've had the England squad selection as well. Bertrand obviously thundering in a goal there, scored for England during qualification for the World Cup. He's out cold now, and Luke Shaw's gone above him in the pecking order as well.
It is weird, isn't it? Because Danny Rose is also, I think, in that squad, and Danny Rose doesn't seem to be playing particularly well. You do wonder what Bertrand's got to do, but having said that, he's got a goal. We've got 2 clean sheets in the Premier League this season. We've got a game. We'll come to talk about the Brighton game, probably the coming up Brighton game more. But there's a chance there that it's not unrealistic for us to get 3 out of 5 clean sheets in our first 5 games of the Premier season. So as long as Bertrand keeps doing what he does, he will get back in that England squad. Whether he'll get the top spot, we know it's quite hard to dislodge players from the big clubs.
I'm wondering whether the form is actually going to make any difference to Bertrand. Maybe he's done something to upset Gareth Southgate, or perhaps his personality doesn't quite fit with the England squad, because Ashley Young seemed like an odd selection, I think, ahead of him in the World Cup. And then Luke Shaw, who, shown a fairly decent bit of form at the start of this season, but again, not the kind of combination of form and consistency that Bertrand has.
Yeah, well, Bertrand's now, we're now the third or fourth season probably of Ryan Bertrand being consistently one of the top sort of 4 or 5 centre-backs in the country. So you do wonder what he's got to do, and I think you're right. Like Luke Shaw, couldn't barely get a game last season, played a few games start this season. He's in the squad, he'll probably start in the friendlies. It does seem a bit odd.
Yeah. One Southampton player which has made it into the England squad is Alex McCarthy.
Well, isn't it great?
Yeah.
Good for him.
I mean, I'm quite surprised. I think Gareth Southgate sees this as a position which isn't necessarily settled, especially with Pickford and Pope both being out injured at the moment. And it's good that McCarthy's going to get a chance, isn't it?
You'd think he's going to play. I mean, it would. You think we've got 2 friendlies. You think he'd get on the pitch at some point, because otherwise, what's kind of the? I know that England doesn't really work like this, but what's the point? You'd think he's going to get a chance. I was talking to Palace fans in the pub on Saturday, and they were amazed that he has turned into a good goalkeeper. They really didn't rate him, but they said that they said they rated him until he had 1 game against Liverpool and his confidence fell to pieces. And after that, he was dead man walking at Palace. But fair play to him. He bided his time at Saints. He's definitely our number 1 goalkeeper, and now he's in the England squad.
It is funny how confidence and form seems to affect goalkeepers more so than any other position.
Well, them and strikers, because their failures are so writ large.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, so good luck to Alex McCarthy. Hope he does well. I suppose if we stay on the theme of goalkeepers, we actually saw our new goalkeeper in action against Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club in the League Cup. We saw a totally different team selection for that game. I mean, I was just having a look at it before. Some of the players that we've been talking about who have been missing, obviously, Angus Gunn, the goalkeeper, gets his chance. We had Yoshida and Bednarek at the back, Targett and Stevens on the right back and left back. Romeo got his chance to get back into the squad. And then we've seen Stephen Davis and Manola Gabbiadini as well, kind of as part of the starting lineup. So very, very different side. And that was pretty much exactly the same with Brighton as well. It was two teams that perhaps not overly worried about the League Cup.
Looking here, Brighton had a number 58 in their first team.
Yeah. I think my 3-year-old is just poking his head around the door. Let me just have a look. Apologies there, ladies and gentlemen, for that brief delay. My 3-year-old is getting to the age where bedtime is becoming
optional,
more and more difficult, and he's getting more and more persuasive. He knows how to kind of push my buttons more, and I think he's starting to realise that if he just refuses to do stuff, it's actually very difficult for me to make those things happen. But there we go. Any parenting tips, send them in, saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com, getting 3.5-year-olds into bed efficiently so that you can go and record your podcast with your mates. You know the channels. Where were we, Tom? Because I have totally lost my trail of thought.
I think we were talking about you were talking about how it was a second string for both teams against Brighton. And I just pointed out that in the Brighton lineup, they had a number 58 and a number 42, a 35, a 30, a 29, and a 27. And if you're of a certain age when 1 to 11 was was still a thing, to see a 58 is a real sight.
Pitch, I mean, that's two teams that really don't care about the League Cup, isn't it? But, it's one of those competitions, isn't it? You kind of roll the dice with your second team selection. And then if you find yourself in the quarterfinals, then you suddenly start taking it seriously.
But I care. We were at Wembley against Man United. I bang on about this all the time. But it was, arguably the best day out, probably apart from the last goal at the Dell, that I've ever had as a Saints fan. So, I think we should care. And if we're not in a position where we're going to win loads of games, confidence. We've spoken so much about it. They're devoid of confidence, and it's a win, and you can't. It's a win against another Premier League team away from home. It's a clean sheet. It's a striker that hasn't scored until then. It's a winger that for the last couple of seasons been getting a lot of stick from Saints fans, that does a really good bit of skill on the cross. Gotta take it. You gotta. It's good. It's a good result. Yeah.
So I mean, really, it was two of Mark Hughes' substitutions that actually changed the game. It was Charlie Austin and Nathan Redmond that were brought on. Redmond providing a really nice bit of skill and then a clever cross, which Austin put away.
Yeah, classic Charlie Austin goal. Yeah, really, wasn't it? Kind of hit him in the head and goes in. But fair play to Redmond and fair play to Mark Hughes as well for being really positive. And bringing on probably two of his first choice 11 to try and win that game for Saints. Overall, that's job done, isn't it? Yeah.
Away win at Brighton. And do you think the win against Brighton helped with the momentum, or is the fact that it's almost two completely different teams just kind of render that?
Of course. I mean, look, they're all. We know that they'll have travelled home. All the first team squad would have been at the Brighton game. I can't imagine they wouldn't be. Even if you're not playing or there, they will travel there together. They will have celebrated together in the change room. They will have travelled home together. We spoke about it in the last podcast, but that Man City documentary, one of the things you realise is that it's a squad. And, that the players, there are squad. There is a squad, and they win together and they lose together. So, it can't have had any negative impact on the way they played on Saturday, can it?
No. Well, I mean, the fact that we won, I think, really great. We're delighted to be in the next round. The draw, however, is not favourable for Southampton. So I think we were the only all Premier League tie in that round, and I think once again we're all Premier League tie. And it's a trip to Goodison Park. Who's up for doing that one again so shortly after?
And also, it's probably the one you genuinely wouldn't have wanted, isn't it? Because it's an annoying game where we could probably win, but we just definitely won't. But then, having said that, it'll be interesting. Everton are probably going to put out a very second string 11.
Is this the point where Saints eventually break their duck at Goodison Park and we see our first victory there since
97?
Isn't that long ago? Gosh.
Yeah, God, it is. Yeah, you take it.
Yeah. All right. So great. Well done, Mark Hughes. Good substitutions. We think maybe it helped with the momentum. Are there any other kind of like talking points about the game? I mean, I did read quite a funny blog on the Ugly Inside about the journey from Southampton to Brighton.
I've not read this.
So, I mean, the Saints-Burnley game, I actually travelled across from Brighton to Southampton for that. And it's a slow, long, boring, terrible train. But by all accounts, the trains that they have on Tuesday nights are much, much worse than the ones that they have on Saturdays. Much less frequent. But well done to those of you that did make the journey across to Brighton. It's great to see Saints, so well supported with the away fans. And, I love going to watch Saints away. Do we want to do song suggestions now? I
mean, you probably do. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's because you know that I'm going to try and persuade you to sing this.
Terrible singer.
So we mentioned a few disco tracks, didn't we, last time we met together? So we had
there was like a vibe of disco.
Yeah, and
like Nile Rodgers is doing like writing into the podcast.
Yeah, FM Logos, as Nile Rodgers' pseudonym is on Twitter, has come up with another Boney M song. So do you remember the tune? Rah Rah Rasputin? How does it go?
There he goes. Rah Rah Rasputin. No, I keep thinking of Super Trooper by ABBA. I do know it, but I can't get it. How does it go?
Come on,
John, tell us.
I don't. I mean, if I help you out by getting the Rah Rah Rasputin lyrics
I'll know
up,
it. I will know.
Is this going to help you get there?
I did like a bit of Boney M.
Rah Rah Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen.
He again, it just sounds like Super Trooper.
Do you think? Yeah.
Russia's greatest love machine. Yeah, I can't remember. I can't get the tune. Too old.
Yeah. So
we might have to come back to that.
So I mean, can you even attempt this one?
I can, but it'll be terrible.
Go on,
just
like
so this is to the tune of Rah Rah Rasputin.
I'll tell you what. If you want to record yourself on your phone or like video yourself and send it, copy us in on Twitter or ping it across the email, saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com, if you think you could do a better job than Tom is just about to attempt here.
If is not necessary. So, okay, so here we go. So, Yannick Vestergaard, 7 foot tall, he's well hard, Danish blonde with beautiful hair. I see, I'm doing Super Trooper. Yannick Vester. It actually works better to Super Trooper.
Yeah, go on.
Make sure you. Okay, I'm gonna swap this out. I'm gonna remix. So we did used to be DJing. Probably. Right, so I'm gonna do it to Super Trooper.
This is where I need to edit in one of the like of a vinyl being kind of reversed.
Okay, so Yannick Vestergaard, 7 foot tall, and he's well hard. A Danish blonde with beautiful hair. Yannick Vestergaard. Make sure you wear your shin guards. He's gonna kick you up in the air. And then you start again like Yannick Vestergaard. See, it just goes on a loop.
Yeah.
It works better to Super Trooper.
I do think we need to sharpen it up though. I mean, maybe there's
a lot we could do.
maybe it's just like a little bit complicated. Perhaps we don't need the second verse. Although I do quite like the "make sure you wear your shin guards" is going to kick you into the air.
Shin guards a good old-fashioned old school reference. It's a good. But I would.
And also, I mean, 7 foot tall. I mean, should we be going for like, the European measurements metric because he's Danish, like 2 meters tall?
2 meters or whatever it is.
Is he 2 points? He's more than 2 meters.
He walked past us on Saturday. He's a giant of man.
Yeah. So I remember the first time I saw Graziano Pella in the flesh. I was just
so handsome.
I was more impressed by his height, but
yeah, both works.
Okay. I think we need to move on from this section
before we get a letter from Boney M's lawyers.
Yeah, but I don't think you could prove any resemblance to the original track there. But yeah, Boney M, if you fancy writing some Saints, some songs for the Saints players, definitely get in there. Keep your suggestions coming in; they're really great. I mean, Højbjerg after scoring a goal, but is he needs to have a song as well, doesn't he?
Hove.
I mean, what is the issue that we're now, we're such a multicultural team that like a lot of these players' names, they're just a bit more tricky.
Also, they don't rhyme with English swear words, which is where most football fans, it comes like Latis, we love Malatis, gets the ball.
Takes the mick.
Yeah. Malatis. So, yeah, it kind of works, yeah.
Okay.
I still think the best chant ever is Kelvin Davis, Stephen Davis, Kelvin Davis. That was the best chant ever. So.
I really like the Ricky Lambert Southampton's goal machine.
Yeah. Anything to do with Ricky's great.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, where do we go from here? We've got to go to Saints versus Palace, Tom. So, I remember late on last season, me, you and your dad, and I think my brother had all gone to a game together. And your dad came out of it and he was just like, I'm not going again.
Was that West Ham?
Was it the West Ham?
Oh, yeah, it was West Ham. That was probably like the low point.
But yeah.
We
watched some pretty poor games together last season.
Yeah.
And your dad eventually got fed up. I mean, this is someone who took your... Did he take your mum on the date to the 76 Cup final?
Yeah, instead of my uncle, which is something that they still needle about. But my dad's been going for 50 years. Over 50 years, 53 years or something. So... And I think with him, and not, won't get too much of a downer on it, but I just think it was the lack of effort and commitment. I think that was what kind of did it for him. It was just they just seemed to stop caring, and he's used to players. He grew up watching Shannon, Davies, McCalliog, Holmes. Players that really.
That's almost sounded like the commentary for the Saints.
It did, yeah. Players who really put in a shift every single time, and even like in the early days of the Premier League. And I think, he just got he got vexed by it. Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that you managed to persuade him to, come and watch another game with you, does he feel that Hughes has instilled something in the Saints team that wasn't there?
I think it's season? Away games, we've spoken about this before. Away games are probably, even though you're less likely to win statistically, or actually probably, I don't know, actually with Saints probably anymore, but actually seem to be more fun for a start. But I think as well.
Also Selhurst Park's
a cracking ground. No, but I think I think I agree with this, is that there seems to be a group of players there now that actually you can imagine want to be there a little bit more, and players like Danny Ings, I think they've given everyone around the club, fans, players, staff, everyone seems to have enjoyed a lift from Danny Ings. So reasons to be cheerful heading into the Palace game.
And Saints started the game, I mean, by the accounts I've read, I mean, you were there, so you can fill me in on the details. Saints started that game pretty strongly.
They did.
Yeah.
And with Shane Long and Danny Ings works.
Yeah.
Because they're both a nightmare. Shane Long's running off the ball. Danny Ings is really strong. Danny Ings is really clever as well.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Danny Ings. He's like a very intelligent footballer. He's always trying to do something. Saints played really well. Lamina looked very good. First half was really all Saints. But again, how many times have Saints fans in the last sort of 2 years gone, first half's all Saints, but we ain't scored.
Yeah. I mean, it's really good to think of us starting positively. I've just thought, so I might mention as to why I'm going to be a little bit light on the details for this game. I was at my sister's wedding.
Fair enough, John.
But the vicar who conducted the ceremony actually brought up Southampton in the... all right, so now it's my wife trying to get in to say the second pause of the podcast. Here we go again. That time it was my wife.
This never happens.
No. I mean, it's quite amazing. We've been doing this podcast it's approaching 2 years now. And, with a child and a wife who doesn't really like taking her keys out with her, that this doesn't happen more often. Anyway, so back to me telling my story about the vicar. So he's a Watford fan.
Very happy vicar.
Yeah, at the moment. And his analogy, he managed to tie in football into the eulogy of the service, right? So my sister's now husband, he's a Liverpool fan, and Liverpool were playing at the time that the service was, so he was getting a bit of stick from his brothers about that. And the vicar actually gave updates on the Liverpool score throughout the service.
I like it. This is good.
Yeah, but he mentioned about Watford being perfect, because they've obviously had the perfect start to the season, and Southampton being rather less perfect. So it was quite nice that Saints actually won on Saturday, and then we could kind of like give some back a little bit later on in the evening.
I'm getting married next March, and Southampton are due to be playing Man United, I think, away on the day I get married. So I think if the person who does it, registrar does it for us, my missus will definitely kill me.
Yeah. Do you think that'll be a quite quick way to end the wedding?
I think it'll end before it started. I think, to be honest.
I've got to admit, I think my sister, like from the moment she walked into the church, the moment the party finished, had like the most massive smile on her face for the whole day. And then when the vicar was talking about football, it was about the only time when she had a like straight face.
Bit of a
yeah. Anyway, there we go. So, I mean, back to Danny Ings and the Saints side and that purpose and that first half. And
really positive start. And I think, they hit Palace hard. I think, like everyone was snapping into tackles. Shane Long was brilliant, holding the ball up, being an absolute nightmare. But again, we just didn't have a goal. But I think there's no doubt the lift that Saints fans had by Zaha not playing. They've not won now in 2 years without Zaha. And he is their special player. I imagine it's probably like if you had to play Saints 10 years ago or 12, 15 years ago, Matty wasn't playing. You knew you were in a much better place. Well,
it's interesting because Mark Hughes was asked about the Zaha thing after the game, and he said, "Oh, we didn't talk about Zaha not playing much," which means that they definitely mentioned it. And could you see that in the way the players approach the game?
Well, he's a special player, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like if you're playing Zaha in the same way if you're playing, I don't know, like a Harry Kane or an Hazard, or, one of these kind of players that can kind of do anything. Eriksen, for example, like you have to adjust your game, don't they? Like Saints would have had to. We had a really good dynamic midfield too of Højbjerg and Lamina, but they were able to be dynamic because Zaha wasn't there. If Zaha had been there, dropping between defence midfield and attack, we'd have had to use one of our centre midfielders to try and manage that threat. And let's face it, lots of teams probably better than us in the Premier League try and manage Zaha and don't manage to do it. So I think it gave us a real lift, and I think maybe Hughes is trying to be a bit clever.
Yeah. I mean, he's also mentioned that he thought Saints played so well that even if they had Zaha on the pitch, Palace wouldn't have got anything out of it, or he would have struggled to get a foothold in the game.
If you look, like Palace had a lot of chances. Like Benteke had at least 2 chances he should have scored. Palace also hit the bar. Saints deserve to win. There's no doubt about that. Hodgson said it. Hughes was right to say it. Saints absolutely deserve the win. We didn't win 2-0 by accident, but I don't think it's right to say that we steamrollered Palace. I think, we got a bit of a fortunate goal, and then we're under the cosh for the next sort of 20-25 minutes, which is fine. You're away from home, you're 1-0 up, you expect that. But it wasn't an easy win for Saints, but in many ways maybe that's more satisfying because of it.
One of the things I found quite interesting about this weekend is that Saints actually had the highest XG, expected goals rating, of any side in the Premier League this weekend.
The penalty is, I assume that counts.
I guess penalty must be nearly one on the XG. And also we missed that. But it's nice to see us come out with over 3 in XG. I mean, if you think, if you look at it, and this is kind of a silly way to look at it because you totally ignore that Palace doing exactly the same things, but we had a penalty which was a terrible penalty from Charlie Austin. El Yanisi hits the bar from 4 yards. We had a lot of chances. We could, if Saints had come out of that game 4-0, you would have gone, okay, yeah, well, that's we created enough goals to win. We created enough chances to win 4-0. So, but really positive. There's so many things to be positive about from the game, from the back. Like McCarthy's saves were fantastic. He had a bit of a shaky start, but he really pulled it back together. And for once, like the centre backs look good. Hoyt looks, maybe we should see if we can play at Selhurst Park every week with him, but he just looked really good. And one of the things that he looked really good at Crystal Palace last season didn't he?
Last season, he looked like we'd signed like Beckenbauer. He looked like the best player he'd ever seen. as did Lamina. But I think he was really good, really strong up against Benteke. And one of the things, and if you watch the highlights from the game, his pass out for Saints' second goal is brilliant, because Hoyt so often in the past gets kind of slaughtered for like just whacking it clear, but it doesn't. He strides out of defence, looks up, fantastic pass with the inside of his left foot into, and what's brilliant about it is it's into the path of Target, and all Target then has to do is use the pace on the ball to one touch it into the pass of Højbjerg. So really that goal kind of starts with Hoyt sort of striding out from the back, and it was really positive across the pitch. There were loads of positives, and Shane Long was brilliant. He was one of those games where you look and you're like, that's why you love him. He just needs a goal, but so much to be positive about.
So I think that's probably going to be quite a surprising team selection, isn't it? Seeing Shane Long starting with Danny Ings, but you were impressed with them as a pairing.
Yeah, because if you the movement of both of them is really good, and if we're going to play with two wingers, which we did, we still played with. It was actually a pretty attacking team. Yeah, play with Redmond, play with Elyounoussi, two out and out wingers. Our fullbacks are two very attacking fullbacks. So if you think that the movement of our strikers can bring in other players into the game, and Ings, again, I've said it 2 minutes ago, he is so clever the way he moves the ball around, and he's always trying to be positive, and he's a very unselfish player. And I think him and sort of Shane Long lifts. I just think Shane Long gives people a lift. When he's playing.
Do you think it's because he's just working so hard that everyone else works a little bit harder when he's on the pitch?
Yeah, but he's a nightmare. He gives everyone, every single ball he chases down. There's no such thing as a wasted punt up the pitch, because Shane Long will chase that ball down and make someone make a decision, make someone do something difficult with it.
There's no rest, is there? If Shane Long's on the pitch and you're a defender, you're not going to get a breather at any point.
And if you look at the goal, the first goal, it comes out to Cedric. Cedric plays a pass, which is, if we score, it's great, and if we don't score, it's a groaning sort of head in hand style pass. But part of the reason why it works is because Shane Long's run away from the ball. He brings the other centre back away. So all Danny Ings has got to do is worry about Sacco. So, I think that Saints fans might grumble when you see Shane Long on the team sheet, but in terms of football is a fast-paced game, all about movement. Charlie Austin has many, many qualities.
Yeah.
Those are not Charlie Austin's qualities. Movement is not his thing. So
scoring goals. I mean, if we could get Charlie Austin's goal scoring
splice
ability
him onto Shane Long,
effort and athleticism.
Yeah. You'd have one of the best players in the Premier League. I mean, you genuinely would. You'd have a fantastic footballer.
Well, it was like that half season which he had under Ronald Koeman, where he got to, I think, 15 goals in that season.
He was fantastic.
It was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, I mean, what I'm starting to see across the Saints team is maybe some partnerships forming, and perhaps we're starting to get a bit of a better idea of what Mark Hughes' best 11 is, okay? So if you thought Ings and Shane Long works quite well together, it seems that Lamina and Højbjerg in the middle looks like it's a partnership that could work. And it also seems that Vestergaard and Hoyt are getting a bit of a partnership going as well. What do we think?
I totally agree with you. I think you're absolutely right, and I think you've got players that complement each other. I
suppose actually another partnership which is perhaps less obvious, but Bertrand and Redmond do link up very well together, don't they?
Redmond's
down the
fantastic, and you feel sorry for Redmond. Just needs something to go in. But I completely agree with you. I think you're seeing much more of partnerships and linking up across the pitch, and I think that we just seem so much better with a 4-4-2. It seems to be so much more natural to us. And I think, I think that maybe as well, we need to be more positive. And Romeu, we've spoken many times on the pod about Romeu maybe not being up to where we'd all like him to be compared to where he was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But what he did do when he came on Saturday was brilliant. He kind of you do think if we're going to go and win a game, Romeu is kind of a player you have when you're desperately trying not to lose or you're desperately trying not to concede. And he was brilliant when he came on Saturday. He broke up play. He was always there, tackling back, doing that thing. And you wonder whether, if we're trying to be a bit more confident and a bit more optimistic and take the game to people more, maybe that's how we need to use Romeu rather than because I almost think if we start with him, we're almost conceding that one of our 10 outfield players is going to offer virtually nothing going forward.
Yeah. Which, makes things difficult, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, particularly in the centre midfield, it's such an important place.
And did Lamina look a bit freer by having Højbjerg on the pitch, or did Højbjerg look a bit freer by, who kind of had the destroying role, or did they just kind of both mix and match?
They both they're so athletic. I mean, that's what they are. Is they're both obviously young, super fit footballers. I think Højbjerg's 24, Lamina was 25 on Saturday. Yeah, they are at the peak of their fitness. And I don't think they necessarily need to have a destroyer. I think that both of them, because they cover every single blade of grass.
So they can almost do the destroying role without being a destroyer.
Yeah.
They can cause enough trouble.
And then if you
really desperately need a destroyer, that's when you bring on
Yeah, and I think also then if you play with two really positive wingers in Elyounoussi and Redmond, you can, and with two very mobile forwards, all of a sudden you've got 4 attacking players there. So I think you're absolutely right. I think you're seeing kind of maybe Mark Hughes going like, that's my 11.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you know what, that's a really good 11.
Yeah. So obviously Charlie Austin came on. He had a penalty, which is, I've got to say, one of the worst penalties I've seen. I mean,
he didn't look like he was going to score it.
I mean, we've seen some bad penalties for Saints over recent years. Is this our final punishment, or after having Letitia, then Beattie, then Lambert, to have like the last few seasons of penalties has just been abysmal, hasn't it?
It's not been a great. I mean, Dusan wasn't the best penalty taker. You never really had confidence with Dusan when he stepped up. The weird thing is we've got players that we know can take penalties, like Bertrand, who appears to be able to take a penalty. Ward-Prowse, when he plays, can definitely take a penalty. And you wonder whether Danny Ings had just scored. He'd scored like 4 minutes before, or something, 5 minutes before, I think. Is there an argument for he should have taken that penalty? I don't know whether Charlie Austin is going to definitely be on. Penalties, I imagine, seem to be a lot about confidence.
It seems that Danny Ings is also kind of like leapfrogged Charlie Austin as being Saints' number one striker.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, I don't know what his penalty taking in training is like, but I think perhaps it's about time that we got him up to speed on that. I mean, Matt Letitia just used to say it's all about practice. He used to stand there against a wall when he was a kid, just hitting the ball, like
tennis ball,
how hard is it for a professional football player to be able to perfect it, that you either put it in one of the 4 corners, from 12 yards? You probably do it 90% of the time.
I mean, Charlie Austin's penalty was particularly bad as well, because he managed to hit it not very powerful
along the floor
at a
about
place
a foot to the right.
About a foot to the right. So no matter where, unless the keeper dives out the way of the goal, as long as he goes the right way, he's probably going to save it.
Yeah.
So it was a really bad penalty. And again, though, we spoke about like turning points, like psychological moments in games that Saints have so often in the past crumbled. Like if you'd have been able to stop time and turn around to the 3,000 Southampton fans and said, right, we're 1-0 up away from home, we've just missed a penalty. What's going to happen next?
Now?
To a man, we would have said, we'll concede and we may well lose.
Yeah.
But maybe now they're starting to believe, maybe with Vestergaard at the back, maybe with Redmond being more positive, maybe with a player like Danny Ings, who again has given everyone a lift. McCarthy, who they seem to have much more belief in.
Yeah. And he's made some key saves. I mean, none of them were particularly spectacular. So where was I there, Tom? So, I mean, this time the memory card has run out. So we've had child, wife, memory card.
We're cursed.
Yeah. I've got an editing job on my hands this evening after this.
The price you pay for a win, John.
So I think it ran out just as I was singing the praises of Alex McCarthy, who kept us in the game. Once again, this time not necessarily spectacular saves, but some decent saves. Yeah,
smart saves as well. Like if you look at even how he gets the ball away from, he always makes sure that if he's got a save to make, not only does he make the save, the ball gets pushed away from danger. You often, you see sometimes keepers push it back in 6-yard box, someone just taps it in.
Yeah.
He just seems to have a lot more confidence, and hopefully getting away with the England squad this week will do him a world of good.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's I mean, that's going to do a world of good for his confidence, isn't it? I mean, hopefully, if he does get on the pitch, he has a fantastic game, the nerves don't get to him, and then he can just continue building upon that confidence. Angus Gunn's had his League Cup game. He's had one clean sheet. Hopefully, he'll be confident. Fraser Forster.
Who?
Yeah,
I mean, Paul Fraser. What a weird thing to know you're not even going to get on the bench on a Saturday afternoon now.
I mean, it looked like he was going to be England's number one when Joe Hart was starting to go down the Swanee.
Yeah.
And now he's Southampton's number 3.
It's a cruel game.
Well, in fact, Southampton's number 4 because Harry Lewis was on the bench against Brighton in the League Cup.
No, wait, was he really? That's a good spot, that, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they just... but can they even get rid of him now? Can he go on loan? He
I
can't,
don't think he
can he?
can.
It's a lot of money to be sitting there every week.
Yeah. So anyway,
stands.
I mean, we pretty much started this podcast with an email from Zav, and Zav emailed after the Saints victory against Palace. So I'm going to go back to Zav again. How good does a win feel? Højbjerg was fantastic today and made up for his mistake last week. Him and Lamina look like a good pairing. Yeah, he's following our trail of thought there. Since they can both contribute defensively and in attack, which Romeo just couldn't. Also seem much more solid at the back. I only wish to see Gabby and Ings play together. As much as I appreciate what Long brings, I think we could be even more threatening. Keep up the good work. Cheers, Zav.
Yeah. I don't think anyone doesn't want to see Gabbiadini play. We just have to be realistic. Like, he's going to play 2 forwards, which is great. It's something we've all been screaming for months now. But, like, you know, something has to give. And there, you know, for every Austin that we drop, you're going to have a load of people go mad about dropping Charlie Austin, saying he's our best natural goal scorer. It's the nature of the big sort of squad game now. But Gabbiadini's going to get his chance. We're going to play a fair few games this season. Someone is going to get injured. Someone's going to get sent off. Someone's going to fall out of favour. Gabbiadini will get his chance, and it's up to him where he takes it. Facts of it are, he played against Brighton, the second string Brighton team, and he didn't score.
No. So, I mean, I think, you know, let's move on. We're now about mid-table. I think we're 12th in the division after this weekend's games, which I think is probably where we'd all perhaps expect to be at the end of the season. I think maybe one of my only worries is that Burnley at home, Leicester at home, should we have taken more points? I mean, we've not played one of the top 6 teams, and obviously those games will start coming round. And
yeah, but Burnley were good. I mean, like, if you think, like, realistically, like, how many points, if you were a Saints fan, like, you'd probably think that you were probably going to draw against Burnley. You would hope to beat Leicester. You're going to lose away at Everton, because you always lose away at Everton. You might get a draw at Palace. Yeah. So therefore, what would we have had? We'd have had.
I always go to Selhurst Park expecting us to win.
But realistically, like, what do we think we're going to have? Like, maybe. I mean, so what have we got? We've got 4 points. Yeah. If we had 5,
you'd be pretty pleased.
You'd be going, that's a really good start to the season. Yeah, we lost away at Everton. Yeah. But we always lose away at Everton, and we drew our other 2 home games. We won 1 away. You know, I think that it's not a bad start to the season. If you look as well, like, we're creating a lot of chances. There's a lot of positivity, and we've got players that are playing. Like, for too long, we've had players play that don't look like they're in form. Yeah. Like, all the players we've got playing at the moment look pretty damn good. And
are we starting to think that, you know, some players are hitting some form, they're starting to get a bit of confidence? Are we going to push on from here?
You'd hope so. I mean, like, you've got to look now. We've got a few players. So we spoke about Alex McCarthy against the England squad. That gives hope for Bertrand. It gives hope for Danny Ings. It gives hope for Redmond. Those are probably our 3 likely players to take that next step. And, you know, we'll talk about the Brighton game, but the Brighton game is an eminently winnable game for the Saints. And we owe Brighton from last year.
We do owe Brighton. So we've got Monday night. Is that on the 17th of September?
2 weeks tonight.
Yeah, 2 weeks tonight.
As we speak.
As we're recording. Then we're going up to Anfield, which is probably less hopeful.
Oh, God.
And then a couple of days later, you could make a trip. If you're going for the Liverpool game, you might as well book a few days off work, enjoy the sights of the northeast.
Enjoy Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool's all right, actually. I quite enjoy
Liverpool.
it as a city. Yeah,
my fiance's from the Wirral, so I can't criticise it too much.
So, you know, maybe make a full trip of it. Go and watch Saints at Anfield and Saints at Goodison. And then we've got Wolves away, which looks like it could be a tricky fixture. They've hit the ground running in the Premier League, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, now we're coming into our sort of more tricky games. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
It's a slightly tougher run of fixtures. I mean, obviously Everton is League Cups. It doesn't affect the league table position. Brighton, you'd hope to get a win. Liverpool, it seems unlikely that we're going to win.
We just don't want to get
Wolves
thrashed.
away, maybe we'll get a draw, maybe we'll get a win,
Yeah.
maybe we'll lose. I mean, that could go.
Wolves have looked pretty good. They really raised their game against Man City, but there are other games they're not really set the world on fire.
Another thing I want to bring up, which I think, this is a little bit of a request as well to our listeners. So I've had quite an odd email this week, which has come from a Japanese television company. And there are two Japanese Southampton fans. So they live in Japan. They follow Southampton mainly because of Maya Yoshida. And Yoshida obviously had a fantastic World Cup. There's lots of media interest in him in Japan. I think they probably planned this before they saw that Newton and Vestergaard were going to be the key partner pairing in defence from Mark Hughes. But so we've got these two Japanese fans that are going to be coming to England. They're going to meet Yoshida, and they're going to go and watch Saints versus Newcastle down in Southampton.
Cool.
And they want me to basically escort them from London, which is where I live, to the Saints game. And I think it'd be quite good fun. I think, us and our listeners, we could actually make this quite good fun. I think perhaps we could pick up a few people on the way. So I think my brother's up for coming. I think there's a few other kind of like London-based
what's the day
Saints.
on this, John?
It's currently the 27th of October,
Okay.
which is a Saturday, and that's presuming it doesn't get changed for the telly. But it could be quite fun. So we'll probably be starting off from East London around about 11 o'clock in the morning, taking them on the tube, taking them on the train down to Southampton, probably stop in a pub somewhere between Southampton Central and the ground and walk up to the ground. And it'd be nice to pick up more and more Saints fans.
Count me in for this,
along
John,
the
I
way. I think it's going to be good fun.
Is this Newcastle at home, you say?
Yeah, Newcastle at home. It's a winnable game.
Winnable game.
And I think we can have a bit of fun here, and I think we can show the best of Saints fans on Japanese television.
Because Yoshida's our second Japanese after Tandari Lee.
Yeah.
So who scored one wonder goal.
Yeah. Did we not have any Japanese players before him? I don't imagine we did.
Think so. But yeah, like I've been to Japan. They're fiercely passionate about football, fiercely passionate about sport. They love Yoshida. And he also does seem to be the nicest bloke in the world.
Yeah. I mean, they are the politest group of people on the planet. I mean, I went on a holiday to Japan, and it was amazing. Hardly anyone was able to speak English, but that didn't stop them desperately trying to help me in every single situation, even if I didn't need any help.
If you ask for directions, they don't direct you, they walk you to where you want to go, no matter how far out of their way it is.
Which is essentially, so I'm getting to repay the favour by walking them through the whole journey from London to St Mary's.
And which Japanese TV, is it Asuri Shimbun or is it Nippon? Or?
now you're testing my knowledge. Let's have a look. Oh, mate, you've put me on the spot here. Right, so it's a sports media company. So I don't know what channel that's going to go out on.
But any day, it's fantastic, John.
Yeah, but
what a great thing to do.
So if you fancy joining us on that, whether you want to join us, just outside the ground, in the pub between the station, at the station, if you're travelling down from London, I think the more Saints fans we can kind of crowbar into this television feature, the better. We can have lots of fun with it. And I think obviously the more Saints fans, the more likely that it's going to get lots of coverage. And it'll do well for the Japanese contingency of Saints fans.
A bit like that band Shampoo that were really big in Japan but couldn't sell a single record in the UK.
I've never even heard of them.
They were terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is great, John. Definitely do this.
So yeah, if you fancy getting involved in that, just email us saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll keep you up to date with our schedule and our movements on the day, and hopefully we can meet up and have a bit of fun with that. Also, next week is International Week. So in terms of doing a podcast on Saints performances, don't think we'll bother. I did speak to Klaus Lundig-Farm though recently.
How was that, John?
It was really, really fascinating. He stayed on the line for a very long period of time, and he went into absolutely everything. So I mean, we talked, from all subjects to him joining Southampton, playing alongside, Ali Dia, Killer, yeah, Letitia. But we also went into some very kind of like quite dark side things that happened
tough
after
times,
he retired.
Klaus,
And some things that you just wouldn't believe that even a human being could survive. So, I mean, it's definitely one that's worth looking out for. I'll try and get it out next week to fill the void that is left by Saints as England get back to international duty. But one to listen out for, perhaps one for the grown-ups, not necessarily one for the kids, because we do go down some pretty dark alleyways in it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I mean, genuinely, he seems like one of the most complex, interesting characters to put on a Saints shirt, in a long time, in an era where players seem to be increasingly sort of one-dimensional.
Yeah.
He struck me as a very interesting man, so I look forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so anyway, I think that's enough for us. I mean, before we have any more kind of interruptions, I don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe the power's going to go out. Maybe my house is going to catch
invade.
on. But anyway, so thank you very much for sticking through all those interruptions. And of course, do let us know what you think of the podcast, saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com or at saintsfcpodcast on Twitter. Get in touch with us if you're going to be going to the Saints Newcastle game and you fancy ending up on Japanese television, being big in Japan like the band Shampoo.
Someone will know who Shampoo is and will be nodding at that reference.
Yeah, okay. But that's it from me. So cheerio, Saints, and how good does it feel to have got a win under our belts?
2, John.
2 wins under our belts.
Amazing.
Anyway, cheerio for now, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Bye.